The following broadcast is a Nighthawk Network presentation. This is Get Off My Lawn Live. Join us as we talk trending topics, world and local issues, and the conversations that we need to talk about as people. Get Off My Lawn Live is a Nighthawk Network presentation. Good evening, everybody. What's going on? It's your boy, the man of the master plan this evening, Eric Buckner. How's it going? And welcome to season 3 of the show known as Get Off My Lawn Live. Now, first of all, let me announce, as part of the big reveal, that we will be changing the name of the show from this point forward. Instead of the show being called Get Off My Lawn Live, it will from now on be known as Get Off This Lawn Live. And if you're asking why that change was necessary, well, what we have found out during our hiatus is that the Get Off My Lawn Line moniker is one that several people found intriguing, so much so that they decided to use it for their podcast. And keep in mind, there are thousands upon thousands of podcasts out there, but I like mine because I have my own opinion. And when it comes to those things, I like to express it. So thusly, I'm here. However, when I send people to go look for my podcast, Get Off My Lawn Live, and you see about 5 or 6 others, that indicates that, yeah, maybe that's a name that I might want to invest a change in. Because after all, I was not the first one to come up with that name, so I can't be mad about it. But in looking up Get Off This Lawn Live, nobody has used that for their podcast. So as a result, I have used it instead. So welcome to Get Off This Lawn Live. Felicia checking in. Hey, Felicia, what's going on? Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for checking in. We appreciate you. Of course, it's been a minute. You guys know I went on hiatus for the summer. I think from this point forward, that will probably be the ideal move for me in terms of just finding some time to recharge, come up with new things to talk about, get some time to get my house in order, literally and figuratively, before I come back on to do the fall and the winter seasons. So from this point forward, I probably will do that in following years for however long I do these podcasts. But I am back now and I'm ready to talk about several topics with you. I am recharged and ready to go. There has been a lot of things that has went on in these last 30 to 45 days. Some of them we'll talk about along the way. Some of them, you know what they are. And of course, we will talk about different subjects, but of course, we will also talk about some of these subjects that we have broached in the past. You know, season 1, we did a lot of talk about that little thing we call Roni. I would like to tell you we won't talk about that no more, but that's not true. Of course, we talked about a lot of what went on in the election cycle in 2020 as well. I'd like to tell you we won't be discussing that anymore. Again, not true as well. As we got other people checking in the room. What's going on, Big Joe? Thanks for checking in. We appreciate you guys. Hold on the line. Definitely, this next topic we're going to get into is something you have expertise on, absolutely. And I definitely would like to hear some of your opinion in regards to that. But just in terms of what's going on in the world, some things are just constant topics. So, of course, we're going to have to address them. But other things, they come along as they come along, and we'll get into some of those as well. Keep in mind, if you are looking to reach out to me to have other topics to discuss or perhaps have an opportunity to be on the show, we will talk about that near the end of the show. I definitely would like to have some temporary co-hosts, so to speak, when it comes to some of the topics we discuss, or perhaps you have a topic that's so good and you are very well versed on it that we can have you on the show and interview you and discuss that topic along with you. So we will talk about that near the end of the show. But today's lineup for season three opening, get off this long live. Tonight we're going to talk about guns and dealing with the attitude that has led to part of what's going on. Because in the end, we know what's going on out here in these streets, but we not only have to talk about what's going on, we need to try to find some solutions if we can. We're also going to talk about the election season today here in Michigan is the primary for a lot of the senatorial races, and we will get into that and basically the November elections as well. And also, I want to talk about something I'm calling Project Detroit, where basically I'm going to, well, I think I should just get into that when I get into it so you have a better understanding. But those are our three topics this evening on the show. Good to see we got a nice little audience checking in. I appreciate it. Remember, anything we talk about, your opinions matter. So by all means, if you have an opinion on the topics that we discuss, feel free to put them in the comments and we will address you all, or at least do our very best to do so because you are part of the discussion. We always want that. And if in the end you choose not to be a part of the discussion per se, but you want to talk about it later on or you want to leave a message in regards to that, I will, of course, give you the opportunity to do that by leaving an email on our email there, which is nighthnetwork313 at gmail.com. That is nighthnetwork313 at gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get into the topic at hand. Tonight's first topic, we're going to talk about the gun violence going on here in America. Of course, as you know, it's nothing new. People have been getting shot for years upon years upon years, unfortunately. But what we're finding is there is an uptick. In other words, ever since the pandemic began in 2020, each following year, there's been more and more incidents involving guns. One of the things that we are definitely tracking more so than usual this particular year is the mass shooting, where people are going out and they are shooting person after person. It's not just a he kill he or she kill he or he kill she. We talking about a person that decided all must die. Let's use this weapon in its most deadliest way possible. And there are more of them going on than ever before. In fact, we are now on August 2nd, I believe. And as of August 2nd, we have had at least one mass shooting every day this year in terms of the numbers. So basically, when there's 365 days in a year, we have had at least that many mass shootings. Now, by definition, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're still in the room, a mass shooting involves four or more people being shot or killed within a shooting incident. And as a result, we are turning them out by the dozens. And unfortunately, one of the places that has become popular yet again is here in my city of Detroit. Uh, Very frustrating. In fact, this particular weekend was said to be the deadliest weekend we've had this year so far. To give you some idea of just how bad things got, I'm going to play you a little video. This is from the press conference of the Detroit police chief, James White, explaining some of what happened this weekend.
In the past 72 hours, we've seen a rash of violence throughout the city and candidly throughout the country. Reports indicate that there were at least 8 mass shootings this weekend throughout this country. We have had in the last this weekend, we've had 24 non-fatal shootings and sadly 7 homicides. Again, it's 24 non-fatal shootings this weekend and 7 homicides.
All right, I'm gonna get back to that, but let me just address that right quick. Understand what he just said. In the past 72-hour weekend, there were 24 non-fatal shootings and 7 homicides in just a 72-hour period and just one part of the country, that being Detroit. That does not count any other part of the state. That does not count any other city. According to his report, there have been mass shootings in over 20 different municipalities across the country just this weekend. So we're not just talking about the bigger cities like your Detroits, your Chicago's, your Los Angeles, your Houston's. We're talking about in some of these smaller parts, some of the rural parts of the country. Now, of course, when we talk about these things and we talk about mass shootings, usually what pops up in basic American A's head is that, oh, they in them cities shooting it up again. No, these things are taking place throughout the country, both local, both non-city, both big town, small town, you name it, they are going on. And they are going on at an alarming rate, and it continues every weekend, and it's to a point to where it's like, what on earth is going on? What is causing this severe rash of people just losing it? But keep in mind, there are incidents and then there are incidents. We're going to have the police chief talk about a couple of the incidents that occurred this weekend, and then we're going to get into the true crust of today's discussion. So hold on, let me do this here. All right, here we go. All right, hold on, people. A little technical difficulty there. Let me see if I can work that out right quick. Please stand by.
We understand that these numbers make media headlines, but to us, these represent people. These represent families. This represents children. This represents husbands, wives, brothers, and sisters. Our Detroit families are in pain. Neighbors near the gunfire are shaken, and lives have been forever changed. Preliminary reports tell us that a mass shooting in our city occurred on Sunday around 2:30 a.m. A suspect was immediately arrested. Sadly, 2 people have died and 6 others were injured in this crime, a crime that simply did not have to happen. It emanated from what we understand to be a neighbor dispute where the suspect believed, it is my understanding, but again, this is a fluid investigation, but what I know at this point, which is subject to change, is that the suspect in question had a problem with some parking that happened near his home, which was directly across the street from where the party took place. Instead of contacting the police department, instead of notifying the NPOs, which we have to handle such matters, he decided to take matters into his own hands, engaging them, and ultimately shooting up the home, striking our 8 victims, and again, 2 of them have sadly deceased. The officers responded in record time, bravely responded in record time, entering the home. Our suspect, who has a military background, had strategically placed weapons throughout his home in case he was engaged, is what our impression is. The officers went into the home looking for the suspect, entered the home legally looking for the suspect because we had information that the suspect had shot from this home. The information that we have is that he shot from the 2nd floor as well as the 1st floor. They go inside the home. They identified a suspect who was in the home in the dark, and ultimately he gave himself up. They took him into custody without incident. However, they recovered 11 weapons, again, 11 weapons from this home that were strategically placed throughout the home. So as he moved through the home, he would have access to these weapons. Less than 24 hours ago, 2 14-year-old girls were shot while at a birthday party on the 8600 block of Penrod. Our preliminary reports say that gunfire erupted from a silver vehicle. We believe this incident to be a drive-by shooting. And already today, a 16-year-old was charged with the fatal shooting of a 13-year-old, and this incident occurred last week. And this is the incident that occurred in Southwest Detroit.
And understand this was a 40-plus minute news conference, and the details and the crimes went on and on. Granted, now you see this, and the first thing people may say is, well, that's Detroit. That's what we expect. Let me tell you something. That's not what we, the citizens of Detroit, expect. That's not something that we even want. There are some people that are quite proud of the fact that we are one of the murder capitals of the country. I, for one, am not. We definitely need you. I agree with that absolutely, Miss Pat. Because the problem is that for whatever reason, it seems that everybody's first option now is not to have a discussion in regards to any disputes. What's going on, Coach V? Oh, your phone call, by the way. I ain't forgot about you. The problem is instead of talking things out and trying to work things out in a mature manner, people's go-to now seems to be, oh, you don't want to cooperate with me? Oh, you don't want to do what I need you to do? Where the gun at? Where is the gun? It's time to get it cracking. And that is part of the problem. We as a country, we as a society, appear to have a severe problem, particularly since COVID, of dealing with anger management. No, that's not what you expect. No, it should not be what we expect, but it is indeed what seems to be happening in several parts of the country, not just here in Detroit, not just here in our major cities. Like I said, it's happening in rural areas too, where we are having issues with some of the things. If you actually look at some of the crimes in your local area and you find out the crux as to why they happen, we have learned that some of these disputes have been over things like gym shoes, a parking spot, which is what we found out about that crime that he just described. It was over not having full access to his driveway. Keep in mind, he did say that crime took place at 2:30 in the morning. Where were you going at 2:30 in the morning to where you need to have full access of your driveway? Keep in mind that across the street, they were having a birthday party. Perhaps the party was a little bit too loud for 2:30 in the morning. I can understand you want to have a discussion in regards to that. But as reasonable neighbors, I'm sure at that point they was ready to break it up or turn the noise down for them. They could have had that conversation without bringing out weapons. Also, clearly you had something in mind if you have a house full of weapons. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you basically shot multiple weapons from multiple floors in your home. That in itself is a whole nother issue we need to talk about. But the bottom line is there definitely is a problem among us in expressing ourselves for whatever reason, as opposed to having the conversations that we need to have as people in regards to our problems with one another. A lot of people's first or at least a second notion is to go grab that weapon of mass destruction and get the blast. Now understand, we're gonna talk about the weapons in a second, but just the whole thought process behind it to where now if you live in that neighborhood, and keep in mind, guess what, people? I lived in that neighborhood. That shooting that he described, that happened less than 5 minutes from my house. The second shooting he described, that also happened less than 5 minutes from my house. So as a citizen of this fine city, should I be concerned? I would think so. If there's those type of weapons going in people's houses around this neighborhood, that is definitely something to be concerned about. I live in a neighborhood where there has been some conflicts over the course of this year. Fortunately, they did not end in gun violence, but of course, based on what I'm seeing, because the news only shows you what it wants to show you, that's definitely something that I will have to be concerned about because we're seeing it far too often, and it seems to be getting closer and closer to my household. Now, of course, most people say at that point, well, if your neighborhood that bad, just move. Just get on out. Just head out to suburbia. But guess what? Some of the worst crimes we have seen in recent months, they've happened in suburban areas. Yes, 5 minutes from the house. 5 minutes from the house, Miss Pat. But just because you move out to the suburbs don't make you bulletproof. Don't mean that the guns, the mass destruction ain't allowed there. If anything, considering that more of the better gun shops, the bigger gun shops in the area are located in the suburban areas and not in the inner city, I think you may even be more likely to run into some type of gun violence and moving in the suburbs. My personal opinion. These are my opinions, mind you. But yeah, that's only part of the issue. Now, of course, If we are dealing with weapons such as, let's say, your standard Glock here, that is a Glock 19 9mm standard. You see a lot of the police weapons are similar to that, from my understanding. And basically, those people that seem to walk around with guns, that seems to be their gun of choice. I actually saw somebody at a store today with one of those on their person. So yeah, I mean, of course, and in this day and age of crime and whatnot, it's kind of hard not to justify carrying some type of weapon if you're going in a place that you don't feel comfortable. I kind of get that, but then a lot of these weapons that we've been seeing lately and involving the mass destruction, in other words, the crimes involving multiple people, have been weapons like this. This, my friends, is a Draco weapon, similar to the one that killed the police officer here in Detroit a few weeks ago. As you see, it has a large magazine that can carry multiple rounds of ammo and shoot them in literally seconds. That is definitely not a weapon that anybody that is basic street person A should be walking around with. And then, of course, there's this deadly weapon here, the AK, similar to the one that was used in the Uvalde shooting. Imagine just walking around and walking into a place with that type of weapon and several other rounds, hundreds of rounds, in fact, of bullets to utilize to do whatever destructive damage you choose to do with it. These are the problems that we are facing now here, people. And it's beyond, let's just be a little concerned. The world is coming to an end. How can you not consider, if you are a person of Bible knowledge, that these are the last days, when these are the types of things that's going on a everyday, all day basis? I mean, just think about the last 90 days of gun violence. We've had Uvalde. We've had what happened in Buffalo. We've had what happened in California, the Indiana situation. It's like every other day you turn on your local or national news and there is some type of incident involving people shooting up more than one or two people. So not only are you having trouble with your conflict resolution, but you decide that when you are mad, everybody got to pay. Everybody that you can get a bullet to. God is tired. We are in the last days. How can you not feel like that? Understand that Miss Patty checking in from Baltimore, another place that's had several acts of violence in recent weeks. I know a few people in Baltimore, and they have definitely told me, yeah, they're not surprised about what they're seeing in Detroit. Same types of things are going on there. I know some people in Chicago, they, of course, are having some of those same incidents as well, unfortunately. But the thing is, we know the problem. What can we do about it? Now, of course, we have complained to our government officials saying, look, we got to have some type of laws on the books to help curb some of this gun violence, okay? We need to have some weapons checks. We need to have some red flag laws in play. We need to be able to tell the store owners, look, don't be selling like 5 and 6 of these weapons at once to one person without questioning it or running some type of extensive background check, what have you. But keep in mind, they are people who suffered through the pandemic just as we had to a degree. So, of course, they want to make their money. In the ideal world, I'm sure there are some gun owners that are extremely responsible and doing all the proper checks and balances and then some. But then there are some gun shop owners that are saying, hey, I'm just trying to sell these weapons so I can make this money. My kids and stuff got to eat too. Let y'all worry about what they do with them once they walk out the door. Sad that they think that, but I can see the thought process behind that as a gun store owner. The problem is that we got these people, and some of them they have guns and they have them legally, and they are registered and they are within their rights to carry them. You know, we always talk about the Second Amendment and our rights to carry weapons and all of that. In the end, yes, I do agree. A lot of it is about the money. That is why we cannot get some of these laws in the books. Remember, the NRA, that is the National Rifle Association, they have some of the biggest lobbyists in Congress. In other words, when it's time to make these laws and they want to do something about it, they send the NRA send their people to talk to the senators and the representatives and say, hey, I don't think you should do that. Here's why. And if you can't convince them one way, you tend to try to find a way to convince them another way. Am I saying some of our politicians may be on the tape, may be a little crooked? You know what I'm saying. And you know I ain't lying. And it does seem like no one cares, Coach B. Absolutely. Seems like nobody cares at all. And that is sad. We are living in some very sad times. All right, Coach B. Like I said, I will hit you up soon. Thanks for checking into the show. We appreciate you. Thank you for your comments as well, sir. But yeah, at some point, we got to understand if we don't at least try to do something to curb the amount of shootings that is occurring, we are losing way too many people. It's bad enough we've lost over 1 million plus people from that thing called the coronavirus. Now we got to add the several thousands of people that's being shot this year in this country. Remember, there's countries at war right now, and they're not coming up with some of the numbers we coming up with. Crazy. When you can see in any specific day that more people died in the United States from gun violence than over there in the Ukraine. What are we doing, people? What are we doing? And the fact that, again, let's talk about him pointing out the one case was the man who was military trained, so he actually knew how to use the weapons quite well that he had 11 guns in his household. 11. Understand, man, that's a big fly. As it just entered the studio, please remain silent, fly, and don't be in the business, and you can stay and listen too. But anyway, understand that we cannot have citizens with 11 guns, okay, in one household. One household that's built very similar to mine. Now, understand that you want to protect your property, you want to protect your person, and that is why you have a weapon or maybe two. But 11 and several of them military style weapons at that, is all that really necessary? Do we really need to have that many guns on hand? Why are we so concerned about our well being and our property that it lends us to have all these weapons in our household? At some point, yes, we got to admit three things. One, we are afraid. And part of why many people are gun owners are not because they like guns and value guns and they're collectors. It's because they are afraid. It's also because we do not trust. We do not trust our fellow citizens. We do not trust our fellow neighborhood people. Yeah, we don't even trust our police officials for that matter. Ms. Pat is now saying, now it's the monkeypox virus that's so scary. That man has some real mental issues with 11 guns. Absolutely. And it's clear. Perhaps what triggered him was the fact that there you are in your house all alone. Meanwhile, they're celebrating a birthday over there. Did nobody invite you? They're having a good time, and you there by yourself, and you got to feeling some type of way. Who knows if he had been drinking or smoking or what have you? A lot of times, unfortunately, alcohol, marijuana, prescription medicines, non-prescription medicines are part of what plays into some of this stuff. Who knows if any of that came into play in his thought process before he decided to snap and basically shoot up the neighborhood. All I know is that there's a lot of people, and every day they come out like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. What can we do? There's only so much we are allowed to do if the powers that be and the one percenters and what have you would not allow the necessary laws to be passed to help to get some of these weapons off the street. It's not going to get rid of all the guns. It's not going to get rid of all the gun violence. But we can't just make it so easy for you to purchase these weapons of mass destruction that you say, hey, let me go get a few. You know what I'm saying? It can't be to where now you're looking at it like, okay, I see what went on in the news. I ain't gonna get caught with my pants down. Let me go to the gun store and get me a couple guns right now. Because if they shoot at me, I'm gonna shoot at them. The whole eye for an eye thing. So now not only do we start to have more gun violence, but we start to have more shootout situations. where the whole neighborhood getting shot up because you shooting at the people that's shooting at you. This is not what we want. This is not how we make America great again. Not at all. He has some serious mental illness issues. Absolutely, Miss Pat. No doubt about that. And several of these people that are involved in these mass shootings, is we finding out that they are also having these issues. And another thing we got to point out is if you as an individual are approached by someone and they are asking you to buy a gun for them, should you not question why they were not able to get the gun themselves in the first place? Do understand that much like the individual that shot the police officer here in Detroit, if it is found out that you bought the gun for that person, you too could be charged for the crime, such as the case was and is in that case. So now a man who had nothing on his file, not one criminal act whatsoever, is now currently in jail for buying his friend a gun that killed a police officer. And he will probably do time for that. Is it worth all that? And then if you buy guns off the street, understand, you don't know where that gun initially came from. You don't know what that gun initially got on it. In other words, that might have been a gun used to kill several other people. They decided to get rid of it so it can't be traced back to them. And now it's in your hands. But because they are not DNA experts and all of that, now you got this gun. They done went into your house for whatever reason. They find this gun, and even though you may not even have used it at all, it has been used in other crimes. So now guess what? You in trouble too. So what are we gonna do, people? Clearly, we need to work on our mental health. So we will definitely have those discussions along the way this year. But also, at some point, we have to have more people take accountability for their actions. So hopefully, as they continue to show all these incidents, they also will continue to show when these people get caught, when these people go to court, when these people go to jail, and most importantly, the sentences that they get. That yeah, you just about to do triple life. You about to do 100+ years. If we start to see more of that, perhaps then we get to it. Here, I say to a degree, you might even want to go as far as when these incidents happen and they're recorded, show some of that. Show some of that footage. So you just see how just destructive what has been done can be. They have said behind the scenes that not only do they have the audio that we do know about for Uvalde, but there are also audio and video of him actually killing several other victims as he recorded it himself. That he perhaps had a body cam on his person to record what he was doing. Imagine if you saw that on your nightly news and what that looked like. Remember, I just showed you what that weapon that he used looked like, right? This one right here. Imagine what type of damage that did to several 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. To the point to where the reason why some of the bodies were not returned to the parents immediately is because they had to figure out a way to identify the bodies. He had shot them up so bad you could barely tell they was even human beings anymore. I mean, talk about literally shattered the skeletons of some of these children with that gun. That's just how powerful it is, particularly at close range. Absolutely, that gun could have murders on it. If you touch it, you'll have your DNA and they will be charged with a crime. Absolutely, as you should be. Because if you're going to purchase a gun, if you're going to practice your amendment rights, at least make sure it's a legal gun, a registered gun, a gun that, as far as you know, you and only you have used. That's in your best interest. Because in the end, I don't have no problem with somebody busting up in your house and trying to take your stuff or deal with your person, and you end up shooting them. You are fully within your rights to do that. That is self-defense. I have no problems with that. Those things do happen often, but sadly, they don't report them in the news as much. But if in the end, if you go out looking for trouble, more times than not, trouble is going to find you. Ms. Pat is saying, no, that's really sad. I wouldn't want to see that enough to traumatize anyone. Yeah, like I said, I understand why they don't show such videos, but again, Think about the nightmares that these children in Uvalde must have every night. Those who actually survived, those who actually sat in that classroom and watched one classmate after another get picked off, and there they are laying in blood, pretending to be dead, so they're not joining them in the heavens along with it. Something that they will have to think about for the rest of their natural life. That's experience I don't want any young child to ever have to experience again. I don't want any human being to have to know that, to have known death to come that close to them. And now they are traumatized to have to live with that memory for the rest of their life. That is definitely not something that you want to have on your mind from day to day. But to have 11 guns is not normal for, no, it's not. If you are a gun collector, that's one thing. But if you just basically have that because you feel like you need that many weapons to protect yourself in your home, there is something really wrong. Perhaps then, yeah, maybe you should invest in moving somewhere else, or at least talking to somebody and saying, "Hey, I don't feel safe. Can we do something?" Because right now I got 11 guns and I feel like I need to have them. Can we do something where I don't need all those guns? He was really mental. Yes, agreed, Miss Pat. Agreed. But at any rate, gun violence, I'm sure is something that will come up yet again on the show. Uh, Keep in mind when we have these discussions, I not only want to talk about what happened, but I want to also have some solutions. And one of the solutions we can talk about, and we'll once we get back at this quick commercial break, is our electors. In other words, the people that we elect to help enact laws to help combat this. Part of the solution is that the people that we currently have not getting the job done, perhaps it's time for some new leadership. So let's talk about that when we get back again. This is Get Off This Lawn Live. I am your host, Eric Buckner, and we'll be back after this short message or two from the people of the Nighthawk Network.
We're not asking for your permission. We're not seeking your approval. We're claiming what's ours in the name of our ancestors. We are their answered prayers. This is more than a movement. This is a revolution. Black innocence. What are yours today?
And we are back. This is Get Off My Lawn, or Get Off This Lawn Live. It's going to take me a while to get used to that too, I'm afraid. But we just got to talk about gun violence, and part of the issue that I address is the fact that we have people in our government, that is our local, state, federal government, that should be doing more to help enact laws to help combat some of this, and some of them simply are not. As a result, I feel it's time for them to move on, move forward, and get some new leadership in some of these cases. So keep in mind, here in Michigan, we are currently uh, having a primary vote. That was today. Of course, the primary vote has ended as of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Michigan. And we hopefully will have the results sometime in the next 24 hours. One of the things we have learned, if they're starting to bring the death penalty back, people will stop it. I do believe that's part of what we need to look into. Absolutely, Miss Pat. And one way to do that is to find electors that's willing to make that judgment call. Right now, we have a lot of people, and they are influenced by the people that have helped to really put them in office. In other words, not we the people, but them the people. The one percenters, the people who are using their money to back these people, to buy all these political ads, so that when you go to the voting booth, as many people tend to do, you don't necessarily look for the best person for the job or the person you feel most qualified. You go with the name that you recognize the most. So if you've constantly seen person A on TV, boom, 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 if you've seen them in the debate and they're the main ones talking, you feel like, okay, this must be the main person. This is the person I should vote for. But some people are innocent and will be put to death, so that will not work either. Yeah, unfortunately, that's part of why we don't have the death penalty in a lot of states anymore, because that did happen quite often, particularly with people of color, unfortunately. Not to necessarily make this a race thing, but we all know the story and history behind that. But yeah, so we are electing our officials tonight. As we know, in these last few years, we've had a lot of things put out there, and they have made promises, both good and bad. Some politicians have done their best to keep their promises, many of them not so much. Currently, if I'm looking at our federal government and I give a rating overall, I'm going with a strong D plus. There's a lot of things that are said that need to be done, and when all is said and done, we keep hearing we don't have the votes. We went through all of this trouble to elect not only Joe Biden, but to make the Senate and the House of Representatives run by Democrats, but yet for some reason, they still don't seem to have enough votes to pass things. There are many things that tend to pass the House right now. When I talk about gun bills and what have you, there is a gun bill that the House of Representatives passed just last week. But of course, now they're saying that the Senate probably won't even take it up because more than likely they won't have the votes to pass it. So what are we to do if in the end we didn't vote for people and they're not getting the job done? Obviously, part of the problem is that we have these career politicians and they get very comfortable and they get these big cachets of money at their disposal. So when it's time for election day, all they got to do is put out a few ads and talk to a few folks, kiss a few babies, shake a few hands, get with a couple millionaires, and guess what? They're right back in office, able to do the same things they've been doing for the last 2 to 4 years. And we get no real change and no real results. Now, of course, we can just say, okay, let's start over and put all new people in, people that don't have quite as much political experience. But we see how well that worked in the previous election when we elected the Orange Clown. We see how well that worked when you had somebody that had no real understanding of government and some of the chaos that that could possibly cause. We still dealing with the fallback from that even years later, as we some of us actually consider putting him back in the presidency yet again for some unknown outlandish reason that makes absolutely no sense to me. I must admit, if you are what's considered a Trumper and you want to express your point of view on here, I definitely want to have you on the show. I most certainly want to talk to you, particularly if you are a person of color. I want to know why, after everything has been said and done, you choose to have him once again as your president. And I will give you your opportunity to have that discussion. We will be respectful and let you talk. But I really need to understand, after all that man did, why you would even possibly consider putting him back in office or anybody that he endorses for that matter. I really don't understand it. I really got to know. And one person in particular, if you happen to upon this podcast this evening, you know exactly who I'm talking to. Not only am I looking forward to your podcast when you finally do it, but please, please have that discussion. I can't wait to hear your opinion on that. I'm not going to call you out by name, but you know who you are. Miss Pat says, so true. Eric Butler, elected officials will say what you want to hear to get in office. And when they get there, they may start out trying to do the right thing, but when it look like it ain't going to work, well, I tried. Let me collect my money anyway. Oh, well. And obviously, if there's certain people in particular that we know is causing all the problems, then the first ones need to go. When you talk about Senator Manchin from West Virginia, for example, or Senator McConnell from South Carolina, no, from Kentucky, or Senator Graham for South Carolina. It seems like whenever it's time to vote in the Senate and we need to figure out who got the votes to do what, those three names and Chuck Schumer and a couple others come up in particular. Says because they are mental like him. In the case of some of these people, yeah, but no, Miss Pat, there are actually rational people that I've talked to that seem to be very sound of mind when it comes to many subjects. But when it comes to him, they have a whole different thought process behind it. And I just don't get it. I really don't. But anyway, bottom line is today is your opportunity to use your vote to make things happen. Now, of course, sadly, what happens is, particularly in these primary elections, we get low voter turnout. Understand this morning I went to my polling place. It was around about 10 a.m. I was voter number 6. Polls have been open since 8 a.m. Was not a large crowd outside or inside, went straight in and voted. Now, part of that is because more people are using the absentee ballot here in Michigan than ever before. It said that they have over 1 million plus absentee ballots to count for just the primary. And of course, that's going to be a problem because part of why people are saying that the election was stolen was because people were allowed to use absentee ballots as opposed to going to the polls in 2020. We all know that was primarily due to the fact that coronavirus was very prevalent at that point, and we did not have any real vaccines available. So we made that an option. And that is part of why the former president felt like the election was stolen because he said many of those basically paper votes, those absentee ballot votes were not valid, that they were just stuffed in there and they should have been better authenticated, so on and so forth. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about, Miss Pat. We talking about the same person. But yeah, when all is said and done, is we got to do what we can to be part of the solution. If voting is that, and we can get more people that truly think like us, that are actually going to do the job, that you are actually more comfortable in what they're trying to accomplish, then yes, we might actually get somewhere in this process. Will it fix all problems? No. But keep in mind, your politician is not the person that can fix everything, but they can definitely help in the process because they're supposed to represent how you, the people, feel about what needs to be done. I definitely am looking forward to November's election here, particularly if they put uh, whether we should have the right to do abortions here in Michigan on the ballot. I really feel like from now on, any major issue like that should be on the ballot for everybody to vote on, since we can't seem to get our politicians to agree between the 50 or 30 or how many of them it is. I mean, the same with these gun laws and having background checks for guns. If we can't come to no ready conclusions, perhaps we should put that on the ballot for everybody in the country to decide. So then we can finally get how the country really feels. Because it is said that the majority of the country are definitely in favor of background checks and some type of restrictions on military style weapons. So why do we not have those laws? Because again, the people that we are putting to represent our opinions are not doing their job properly. And just like in any other job, you ain't doing your job right, you gotta go. The election wasn't stolen, and he knew that. He thought that his money could buy him in. That and the money of his friends. I agree, Miss Pat. We all know that to be true. Bottom line, if they are going to charge him with anything, hopefully that will happen sooner than later. Will he see any time in prison? I think we all know the answer to that. Probably not. Not a day, not a minute, not a second. But if we can at least establish that what he did was so crooked and corrupt that we cannot possibly consider putting him back in office, I think that's sufficient enough for me. To where when we get to 2024, we not only have nobody named Trump on the ballot to run for president, but hell, to be honest, I ain't all that keen on Uncle Joe being on the ballot in 2024 to run for president either. Because right now, he ain't showing me much of what we really need. I appreciate his calm demeanor and his care when it comes to the national disasters and things of that nature. But when it comes to actually governing the country and doing the things that we feel a president should be doing, I'm not getting enough of that from him. Not even close. Not even close. So hopefully you will use your right to vote. If not today or in whenever your primary is across the country, definitely in November when the election time comes. Make sure you are registered to vote. In some places, you can actually register the same day as the election to vote. You can't do that here in Michigan. In other places, if you need to get registered beforehand, call your local officials and make sure that you get that done. If you can vote in person, you should absolutely do that because, as you know, it is the absentee ballots that they and the early ballots that they often question when it comes time, and particularly if the vote is close. So if you go in person and vote and put your vote in, and if necessary, take pictures of you actually putting your vote in and all your information, your corresponding information that was on your ballot. I did do that. So in the event that anybody said that, yeah, your vote wasn't what it's supposed to be, oh, yes, it was. I was right there. Here, a picture of me. Here, a picture of my ballot. You got me messed up. My vote count. Quit playing with me. So there's that. Now, that is that discussion. Go vote, people. November, please go vote. It is important, despite what other people may say or think. That being said, when we come back, we are going to talk about Project Detroit, as I'm calling it, and basically give you an understanding of why I'm doing it, what it entails, and then just basically wrap up the show. So let me do this commercial break. When we come back, let's finish up season 3, episode 1 to get off this long live. Be right back, y'all.
Come on now. Okay, black on. Get into it. Black on. Look at that David Ford. Right there. That's his thing. Black on. He don't know Tom. Look at that David Ford. That's his thing. He don't know Tom. Yeah. Yes. Oh, here we go. Oh, I can see the demons. I can't see the demons, but I can see the light.
We are creating black luxury across this country.
All right, shout out to my guy D Ford. It's really crazy what happened to him. According to his social media, there was a person who basically accused him of having the coronavirus and basically walking around infecting people and what have you. He has went through much to show people that in fact he did not have it. He's been negative all this time, and for whatever reason they chose to make that public knowledge and tell that lie on him. I do not know, but yeah, it is one of the many pitfalls that is social media. But shout out to you, D Ford, if you see this. Do know we are proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing, and haters, stop hating. Let that man be great. Why you would do that and try to hurt his business with his celebrity clients, I have no idea. But yeah, bottom line, if you can't do what you need to do to get your money, don't take that out on other folks, okay? That ain't cool. Ain't nothing cool about it. I would be upset just like he is too. So stop hating. Please stop hating. Let's move on. Okay, as I said, this particular season of Get Off This Long Live, I have a special project that I have challenged myself to do. And I would like to challenge some of you as well to do so in your communities. Keep in mind, we are ending the pandemic here, at least this pandemic. We'll talk about another one next week. Y'all know where we're going with that. But we are trying to revitalize our cities and our localities to try to get the economy going again in some of these places. A lot of the festivals and things that we have not been able to comfortably have the last year or two, particularly in the northern states where we shut down more often than not. We are now starting to have them again. Another group of individuals that desperately need our help are our local restaurants and businesses. We need to start frequenting them more, showing them love, allowing them to make some of this money that we have. So I am challenging you to start checking out your locals. In other words, eat local, shop local, go to some of your local places of fun and adventure and spend a little money with them because they are in need of your money. keep in mind, a lot of people that had bigger businesses, they found a way to cope, whether it was PPE loans or basically going from this to this fund and that fund, and then upping the prices when they came back online. Some people they actually made a profit during the pandemic. We know about what happened with our Walmarts and our Amazons and such. But our local businesses, they suffered more than anybody, particularly our restaurants. So by all means, let us go and help out them in this economy. However, we do expect that when we get to these local eateries and whatnot, you do right by us. I understand you are trying to make your money back, but that don't mean charge $4 and $5 more and give us 3 and 4 and 5 ounces less, okay? We expect your fine service just as you would during any other time because if you give us enough of the good stuff, it will come back on you. We will have the word of mouth. In fact, here on the show, we are looking to go to some of these places, talk to the owner, perhaps film from some of them, show you some of the actual menu items and what have you. Perhaps have a couple of them even come on the show and talk about their local restaurants so we can show them some love and advertise for them here on the show. I want to do that because I do love my city and I do love the citizens of the city, particularly the ones that's trying to do positive things for this city that is Detroit. So we will be showing you several locales and several places within the city that's doing good things and selling good food and having people come in and, basically have love for the city. Because I feel that's important. I'm tired of when people think about Detroit, all they think about is the gun violence and the shootings and whatnot. I want to highlight some of the good things that happen here in Detroit. And hopefully you will enjoy that. And if you have things to share from your city that you want to highlight, you got a little small snippet that you can send. I'm trying to figure out a way to where we can take some of these TikTok videos and show them. So if you have something like that that you can use to highlight what's going on, we can feature that on the show perhaps. We'll try to figure out some way to make that work. But at any rate, that is Project Detroit. I'm looking forward to that and showing you some good parks and good places to eat and hang out and chill in my city. And hopefully you will enjoy it as well. And this has been Get Off This Long Live. I am your host, Eric Butler. It was a great, good discussion. Thank you to everybody that chimed into the comments. Definitely a special thank you to Road Starter and to my good buddy, Miss Pat, for their comments in regards to the subjects. Appreciate them. When we come back next week, we are going to talk about what's becoming the new pandemic, that thing called monkeypox. What's it all about? Should we be really concerned? Here we go again and all of that. And we'll have a couple other subjects to discuss as well. So hopefully you will tune in. Shout out to the people in the partying nation. For those of you not familiar with partying, we will have that discussion in the upcoming weeks as well. There's another internet site that I am doing some work on. I do want to familiarize you with it along the line. But in the meanwhile, I am going to call it a night here on the show. Keep in mind, we will also be back tomorrow for the show known as Game Time Audible. No name change there, but there is a special segment that you will learn about on the show tomorrow, and I really hope you enjoy it. That would be with the show I host with me, myself, and my good buddy here, Hugh Lee, that dude right here, the sports guru. So shout out to him, and hopefully he is ready. That show will be 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this fine Nighthawk Network. Hopefully you will tune in. If you got any sports questions or things you want to talk about in sports, at that time, come on through and have a discussion with us. We would love to hear your comments. So that being said, we are going to call it a night. Thank you again for tuning in to Get Off This Long Live. Again, I'm your host, E. Buck, and we will see you next week about 9:30, y'all. Let me find that good old closing. All right, you ready? Throw the fingers up, please.